What if you came back from a long, dangerous journey, expecting to be wrapped in the arms of your loved ones, only to find everything you knew gone? Imagine returning home, after nearly a year away, facing danger every single day, only to discover your entire world has been flipped upside down. What if the person you fought for, the reason you kept going, had simply vanished? This is the story of Sergeant Mark Riley, a man who faced the unthinkable. Mark was a soldier, a husband, and a father. He loved his family more than anything, and he proudly served his country. For 270 long days, Mark was deployed overseas. Think about that for a moment. 9 months. 9 months of waking up every day not knowing if it would be your last. 9 months of missing birthdays, anniversaries, and all those small, precious moments that make up a family's life. He wasn't just counting the days until he could come home. He was counting the seconds until he could hug his daughter Lily and hold his wife Sarah again. He carried their photos with him, worn and creased from countless touches, a constant reminder of why he was enduring so much. Every video call was a lifeline. He'd see Lily's bright smile, hear her giggles, and Sarah's reassuring voice would tell him everything was fine, that they missed him, that they were waiting. He'd picture their little house, the one they'd worked so hard to make a home, filled with laughter and love. He dreamed of the day he'd walk through that door, the smell of Sarah's cooking, Lily running into his arms. Those dreams, those images, were what kept him going through the toughest times, through the dust and the heat and the constant, gnawing fear. As the day of his return approached, the excitement became almost unbearable. He could practically taste the freedom, the comfort of his own bed, the simple joy of a family meal. He bought a small, special gift for Sarah and a toy for Lily, imagining their faces when he presented them. His buddies in the unit teased him, but they understood. They all had their own reasons to go home, their own families waiting. Mark's flight landed late in the evening. He was tired, bone-weary, but a surge of adrenaline coursed through him. This was it. He was finally home. He hailed a cab, his heart thumping with anticipation. He imagined Sarah and Lily asleep and how he would surprise them in the morning. He pictured Lily waking up and seeing him there, her eyes wide with disbelief, then pure joy. But as the cab pulled up to his street, something felt off. The lights in his house were out. Not unusual for that time of night, but a tiny knot of unease began to form in his stomach. He paid the driver, grabbed his bags, and walked up the familiar path. The front door was locked. He fumbled for his key, his hand shaking slightly, not from exhaustion, but from a growing sense of dread. The key turned, and he pushed the door open. The house was dark, silent, and cold. A chill that had nothing to do with the night air crept over him. He called out, "Sarah? Lily?" His voice echoed in the emptiness. No answer. He tried the light switch. Nothing. He pulled out his phone, its flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. The living room was bare, not just messy, but empty. The sofa was gone. The television was gone. The walls, once adorned with family photos and Lily's drawings, were stark and blank. His breath caught in his throat. What was happening? He stumbled into the kitchen. The table, where they shared countless meals, was gone. The refrigerator, once covered in magnets and Lily's artwork, was stripped clean. A terrible, sickening feeling began to spread through him. This wasn't just an empty house, it was an abandoned one. He ran upstairs, his heart pounding against his ribs. Lily's room. Her little bed, the one with the princess canopy, was gone. Her colorful rug, her toy chest, her books, all gone. The only thing left was a faint outline on the wall where her growth chart used to be. Tears stung his eyes, but he blinked them back. He had to be strong. He had to understand. What could possibly explain this? He went into his and Sarah's bedroom. It too was stripped bare. The closet doors were open, empty. He sank onto the floor, the cold wood pressing against his weary body. He felt a profound sense of disorientation, like he was in a nightmare. Where were they? Why would they leave? And why didn't Sarah tell him? He pulled out his phone, his fingers fumbling as he tried to call her. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again and again. Each time, the same automated voice. His panic grew. He tried her parents, then their mutual friends. No one answered. It was late, but surely someone would know something. Then he saw it. Tucked under a loose floorboard in their bedroom, a single, folded piece of paper. His hands trembled as he unfolded it. It was a letter, written in Sarah's familiar handwriting. His eyes scanned the words, and with each sentence, his world shattered further. The letter was short, blunt, and utterly devastating. Sarah wrote that she couldn't wait for him anymore. She said she had met someone else, someone who was present and here. And then, the words that punched the air out of his lungs. She had given Lily to her sister Jessica, claiming she couldn't cope with a child on her own while Mark was away, and that she was starting a new life, a new family, with this new man. Can you imagine that gut punch? 9 months of constant fear of missing everything, only to come home and read those words. His wife, the mother of his child, had not only left him but had given away their daughter, his little girl, to start a new life with someone else. The betrayal was a physical ache. It was worse than any injury he had sustained in combat. This was a wound to his soul. How could she do this to him, to Lily? He stumbled out of the house, the letter clutched in his hand. He didn't know where he was going, just that he couldn't stay there. He couldn't breathe in that empty shell of a home. He needed answers. He needed to find Lily. He remembered Sarah mentioning her sister Jessica had moved to a town about an hour away, a small place called Willow Creek. It was the only lead he had, a desperate flicker of hope in the overwhelming darkness. He started walking, his bags forgotten, his uniform still on. He walked for hours, the cold night air doing little to numb the searing pain in his chest. His mind raced, replaying every phone call, every reassuring word from Sarah. Had it all been a lie? Had she been planning this all along? How could he have been so blind? As dawn broke, a faint light in the distance gave him a new target. A small, roadside diner. He walked in, looking like a ghost, his face streaked with dirt and tears. The waitress, a kind-faced woman, looked at him with concern. He ordered coffee, black, and asked if there was a bus to Willow Creek. She gave him directions and a sympathetic look. He sat there, the steam from the coffee rising, trying to process the enormity of what had happened. His life, as he knew it, was over. But he still had Lily. He had to get to Lily. He eventually made his way to Willow Creek. The small town felt foreign, unwelcoming. He found Jessica's address in his phone, a number he hadn't used in years. His hand trembled as he knocked on the door. He braced himself for anything. When the door opened, Jessica stood there, her eyes widening in shock and then filling with something he couldn't quite place. Guilt? Sadness? Mark? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Jessica, where's Lily? He asked, his voice hoarse, raw with emotion. She invited him in, her movements stiff. The house was neat, quiet. He didn't see any sign of a child. His heart hammered against his ribs. Had something happened to Lily? Did Sarah give her to someone else entirely? Jessica began to speak, her voice low, hesitant. She confirmed what the letter said. Sarah had indeed brought Lily to her about 6 months ago, claiming she was overwhelmed and needed a break. Jessica, out of concern for her niece, had taken Lily in. But then, she said, Sarah had started pushing for something more permanent. She wanted Jessica to adopt Lily. Can you believe that? To not only abandon your child, but to try and sign away your parental rights, as if a child is a burden to be discarded? Jessica, thankfully, had refused to sign any papers. She had tried to talk sense into Sarah, to remind her of Mark, of their family, but Sarah had been adamant. She was done. She was moving on. And then, Jessica dropped another bombshell. Sarah hadn't just moved on. She hadn't just found a new man. She had married him. A whirlwind wedding just a few weeks ago. And to make matters worse, she had started a new family with him. She was pregnant. The news hit Mark like a physical blow. Pregnant? With another man's child? While he was fighting for their future, for their country, she was building a new life, completely erasing him and Lily from her plans. The pain was unbearable, a sharp, twisting knife in his gut. But then, Jessica led him to a small, brightly decorated room. And there, sitting on a colorful rug surrounded by toys, was Lily, his little girl. She looked up, her big eyes wide, a puzzle in her hands. For a moment she didn't recognize him. His heart shattered again. He had been gone for so long she had almost forgotten her own father. "Lilybug?" he whispered, his voice cracking, her head tilted. Then, slowly, a flicker of recognition. Her eyes widened. A small gasp. "Daddy?" she breathed, and then, with a joyful squeal, she launched herself into his arms. That hug. That precious, desperate hug. It was everything. It was the only thing that mattered. He held her tight, tears finally streaming down his face, soaking her hair. He buried his face in her sweet-smelling hair, inhaling her scent, the one thing in this shattered world that felt real, that felt right. He was home. He had his daughter. But the journey wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Jessica had been a guardian angel, a true lifeline for Lily. She told him about Sarah's legal attempts to sign away her parental rights. Sarah had even tried to prevent Mark from having any contact with Lily, claiming he was unstable from his deployment, a risk to their daughter. This was a direct attack, a cruel attempt to erase him from Lily's life completely. Mark knew he had a fight on his hands. A legal battle was brewing, and it would be messy, painful, and public. He had to prove he was a fit parent, that Sarah's claims were baseless. He had to fight for his daughter, for their future together. He had faced combat, but this was a different kind of war, a war for his family, for his very identity as a father. He contacted a lawyer, a veteran himself, who understood the unique challenges soldiers faced when returning home. The lawyer was appalled by Sarah's actions and assured Mark they had a strong case. But the process would be draining. It would force Mark to relive the pain, to expose his private life to the scrutiny of the courts. During the initial hearings, Sarah's new husband, a seemingly ordinary man, appeared beside her. He looked uncomfortable, avoiding Mark's gaze. Sarah, on the other hand, was defiant, her face hard. She repeated her accusations, claiming Mark was unfit, that Lily was better off with her and her new family. Can you imagine the audacity? To abandon your child, then try to demonize the other parent to cover your own tracks. Mark, with the support of his lawyer and Jessica, presented his case. He had commendations from his service, testimonies from his commanding officers, and medical records proving his mental and physical fitness. Jessica testified, recounting Sarah's abandonment and her attempts to sever ties with Lily. She also detailed how well Lily had been doing in her care, thriving despite the upheaval. The judge listened intently. It became clear that Sarah's claims were simply an attempt to rationalize her abandonment of Lily and to secure her new life without any lingering responsibilities. The evidence against her was overwhelming. She had not only abandoned her child, but had actively tried to prevent the child's father from having contact. In the end, the judge's ruling was clear and unequivocal. Full custody of Lily was granted to Mark. Sarah's attempts to terminate his parental rights were denied. The judge sternly rebuked Sarah for her actions, highlighting the severe emotional distress she had caused her daughter and her husband. A child, the judge stated, is not a possession to be discarded when inconvenient. The ruling was a massive victory for Mark, but it was also a bittersweet one. He had won the legal battle, but the emotional scars would take a long time to heal. Life after the ruling began to slowly, painstakingly rebuild. Mark moved into a small house near Jessica, ensuring Lily could still see her aunt, who had become a vital part of her life. He got a job that allowed him more time with Lily, something he desperately needed. They started therapy together, a safe space for Lily to process her feelings about her mother's absence, and for Mark to navigate his own trauma and anger. He watched Lily carefully, looking for signs of the emotional toll this ordeal had taken. Sometimes she would ask about her mother, her little brow furrowed in confusion. Mark would answer honestly, in an age-appropriate way, emphasizing that she was loved, that she was wanted, and that he would always be there for her. He never badmouthed Sarah, simply stating that her mother had made choices that meant she couldn't be a part of their daily lives right now. Slowly, painstakingly, a new routine emerged. Mark learned to braid Lily's hair, to pack her lunch, to help her with her homework. He attended every school event, every parent-teacher conference. He became the unwavering constant in her life, the rock she could always depend on. He brought her back to their old house once, a few months after his return, hoping it might spark a memory, but Lily just looked around, confused. The house was still empty, a ghost of a past that no longer existed for them. It was then that Mark realized their home wasn't a building, it was wherever he and Lily were together. The emotional wounds for Mark were deep. The betrayal, the abandonment, the sheer cruelty of it all. He often found himself staring blankly into space, replaying the moment he opened that empty door, the shock of Sarah's letter. He carried the weight of what she had done, not just to him, but to their daughter. He struggled with trust, with anger, and with the feeling that he had sacrificed so much only to have everything stolen from him. But then he would look at Lily, at her bright, innocent face, and he would find strength. She was his reason, his purpose. Their story is a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit. It's about the unbreakable bond between a parent and a child. It's about facing unimaginable betrayal and still finding the courage to fight, to rebuild, and to love. Mark's story isn't just about a soldier returning home. It's about a father who refused to give up on his daughter, no matter the cost, no matter the pain. What do you think about Sarah's actions? Can you ever truly understand such a profound abandonment? And what would you do if you were in Mark's shoes? Let us know in the comments below.